Are we officially starting
I
now?
think we are
This
officially
is real.
starting. I know this is real. I'm so excited. I'm sitting down with Tim Cox. This is episode 24.
What took you so long to invite me, man? Episode 24,
We
wow.
needed to warm it up. Now we
Oh,
have the
okay.
All-Star.
Yeah.
So I'm just so excited to sit down with you. If you don't know Tim, Tim was one of the very first hires in the creative marketing department at Publix. He's now the chief resident officer here at Catapult,
Bro,
or what
that
exactly?
sounds even way more lofty than what I feel is too lofty. I always stumble on this. I'm the expert in residence.
There it is. Expert in residence.
Easier just to say coach,
Right.
mentor,
Well,
whatever.
expert in branding, marketing, advertising. We were talking off air. It's just amazing the fact that you went through the whole transition from literally drawing on paper designs to having computers, and now, we're in Web 3 with the Metaverse coming soon. It's just amazing for your whole journey. So, I'm just
Makes me sound super old, doesn't it? Drawing on paper.
mature
What a novel
experience.
concept.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, well, so Tim, the whole goal of the Growing Pains podcast is to just talk about, your journey and experiences, and not just the things that people know about you, but things that maybe people don't know, like, the trials and tribulations that you experienced, even as a child. And I know, we both can relate because we're tall guys.
Yeah.
We played basketball, so
I loved being tall, though. Did you love being tall? Or
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
I just love having the ability to see over people.
Right.
It makes you feel just definitely, I don't know. I don't want to say inferior or superior, but I guess it does. But
We're not supposed to tell people that we feel
right.
superior
Right.
because
I
we're
guess
6'5" or whatever.
No, I guess I'm playing basketball. There's people that are way taller than
Yeah,
us that
right.
make us feel
Yeah.
small. So, but no. So, talk a little bit about your background, Tim.
Okay.
Like, I know that you played basketball growing up, and you're an athlete. How did you get into the entire marketing world?
Well, it wasn't on my radar, I promise you. Not when I was in high school, not even when I was in college. So, little background, I guess, pre-college. I grew up in Flint, Michigan. There's a lot of good ballers that come out of Flint, Michigan, by the way.
Absolutely.
So that was my passion. As far back as I can remember, it was like playing ball. That was my thing. I did okay in school. I kind of knew how to get by successfully, but playing ball was my passion. Played, basketball and baseball all through high school. Got a scholarship to play basketball and baseball in college.
Wow.
And as far as any kind of career aspirations, it was like, well, I'm going to play ball. If I don't make it in ball, like I'll run a sporting goods store or something like that. It was just all sports minded. So obviously I didn't make it in the NBA, which never would have happened anyway. I'm 6'5" and I can't jump. So, man, I just told everybody I can't jump. That's bad.
It's okay. I can relate to that.
But I did think, in baseball as a pitcher that I might have a shot at that, but that never played out. And met my wife in college in Michigan. We decided to get married. And because of some prior connections that she had in Lakeland, we decided to move to Lakeland. So I get here in Lakeland, Florida, which was surprising to me that Lakeland wasn't like what I experienced on spring break, which was like Fort Lauderdale.
Right. It's never what you see in the movies, right?
So anyway, it's like, I got to get a real job. But even, over 40 years ago in Lakeland, Publix was, had the reputation of being one of the better employers. So I went knocking on the door at Publix, thought I would just get a job in a warehouse. And the gentleman that I was talking to asked me what kind of experience I had. So I said, well, I was a screen printer. I'm thinking he's not going to have a clue what I'm talking about. But I told him I was a screen printer, had a part-time summer job when I was in college being a screen printer. So he told me that I needed to go down the road and see this guy in the sign shop at Publix. So I'm like, okay. So I literally just drive down the road, walk in, see this man that ran the sign shop, and had kind of a on-the-spot informal interview. And he told me that, yeah, they could use me and I could start in a week or something like that. So that was how I got hired at Publix. I had no idea that Publix would be a career for me. I just assumed, oh, I'll just get a job until I figure out what I want to do.
Hmm.
But getting into that sign shop was really the best thing that could have ever happened for me,
Wow.
because what it did was it opened my eyes to creativity.
Hmm.
And like I told you before, I had no aspiration, no idea that a career in the creative sort of industry would be something that would play out for me. But obviously it did. So um, having the opportunity to be in that sign shop and kind of see what at the time was a lot of craft, sign painting, printing, cutting out all the big letters that would go on the wall, the creation of all the
A
store
lot that goes
graphics.
into it.
Yeah, so that was really cool. So I just began to, in my time that I wasn't printing, I would explore the other things that were going on there and begin to ask questions and try different things, calligraphy, sign painting, and eventually I worked myself into a layout artist job. And my boss at the time, he shared a lot with me. He taught me a lot. His name was Mark Irby, and Mark eventually became the vice president of marketing at Publix.
Mm.
And so when he transferred out of the sign shop and began to
And the sign
work,
shop was now an auxiliary service for Publix, right?
yep,
It was like a contract
no,
out,
no,
or
it was actually owned by Publix.
okay,
Yeah, it was part of Publix's in-house production
gotcha.
and manufacturing shop. So anyway, kind of fast forward, my boss at the time gets promoted, moves out, and a few years later, he reached out to me and asked me if I would be interested in starting an in-house creative department for Publix, which today is known as Creative Services.
Hmm.
And didn't take me long to say yes, that
Hmm.
is something that I would be interested in. I didn't have a clue what I was doing. Had this little bit of layout and design experience. Had a couple of people working for me, so we decided to create this in-house team. So we kind of rounded up all the graphic artists, that were kind of hanging around there, and we started Creative Services with 5 people. Over time, they began to shift work into our team that was being done by our external agency,
Hmm.
and we just began to kind of grow the department, kind of learn more about what we were doing. And this is where I gained probably one of my best lessons.
Hmm.
And that was, it is critical to hire people that are better than you.
Hmm.
So it was intimidating at first, because I kind of grew up in a blue collar town with the mindset of the manager has to know how to do everything.
Right.
Don't ask somebody to do something that you can't do,
Right.
and you need to
First
be
one
the
in,
best.
last one out.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So to actually be encountered, in an interview with somebody who was head and shoulders above me in design work was very intimidating, and it was a critical point in my life because I could have said, "No, we don't need you," or I could kind of suck it up and be like,
Mm.
"Yeah, I'm going to hire somebody who knows a lot more than me."
Yeah.
Fortunately, I did that. And after I got through the awkward phase of, having somebody who worked for me that was really better than me, I realized, wow, this is a great strategy.
Yeah.
This is how I can get better, how we can make our team stronger, and how other people can benefit from this kind of experience and talent.
Yeah.
And so that sort of became my philosophy, is always try to find people that are adding something better to the team. And that served us really well over the years. So we continued to grow that creative services team over the years, brought more and more work in-house to the point of where creative services was really responsible for all the brand expression work for Publix. And over, about a 30-year period, we grew that team from 5 people to probably about 110 people.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's
So
amazing.
it was, it was a great ride, man. Great
Yeah.
ride.
I mean, there's so many things to unpack through your journey there. Like, one thing that comes to mind is, going through your journey, it's about building relationships and knowing
100%.
people that then open the doors for you then to figure out what you were passionate about. Because like I can relate, as a kid, a athlete coming out of college playing sports, you think you're better than what you
Right.
are. We
Yeah,
all do,
yeah,
right? But no matter what, at some point it comes to an end, and you have to think about what are the other things you're passionate about in life. And I can relate back to the people that have pushed me in certain directions, whether it's good or bad. It's still experiences that
right,
shaped what you do now.
right.
So, what would you give advice to someone who's in college now listening, or a solopreneur who's kind of struggling maybe?
Yeah,
What would you say for them to try to start building relationships, the power of that, and just how they can grow
yeah.
in that sense?
Great question. You made some really good points even in your question. I would say two things are critical. One is that oftentimes I find that younger people are frustrated or feel intimidated because they don't really have it figured out yet, right? There's so much pressure to have a plan, to have a goal, and to, kind of have your career path figured out so you can get
Mhm.
after it. And some people do that really well. And my hat's off to those kind of folks. But there are so many other people who really don't know exactly what it is they're supposed to be doing. And to those, I would say, it's okay. Don't freak out. Don't get intimidated by everything you see posted on social media, and
Right.
stop comparing yourself.
Yep.
What you can do is prepare for opportunity. And the way you do that is, one, you make 100%, you give 100% and make the best at what you have on your plate today. So just crush what's in front of you
Mm.
today,
Yeah.
right?
Great point.
And the other thing is to build those relationships, make connections.
Hmm.
And you don't have to wait to start building those relationships. It's like it could be intimidating sometimes to reach out and meet new people, especially if it's somebody who's your senior. But I would say the majority of the time, those people, if they're worth their salt, they are happy to connect
Absolutely.
with
Yeah.
younger folks.
Yep.
Or it doesn't even have to be younger folks, but they're happy to connect.
Right.
And when you build those relationships, and when you're, getting after it every day, what happens
Hmm.
is opportunities come along,
Yep.
doors open up. And then when those doors open up, it's on you to take the step and walk through those doors and see
Right.
see what opportunity is there. And sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. But you just keep that grind going and things work out.
Hmm.
But I would say building relationships is critical,
Yeah.
because what it
Absolutely.
does is it extends your opportunity for influence.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we all put our shoes on the same way,
Right?
right? And we're, as entrepreneurs, whether you're in your first year or 10th year, there's still a process that you went through. And if you can't relate to the other people that are going through that, then, that's on that person,
Right.
not you as a student, or, someone that's getting into the industry. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I definitely can relate to that. And I can attest to that. I've had mentors that have definitely helped me along the way.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
um,
And it is true we all put our shoes on the same way, but
mhm.
like some people's shoes look better than others, like yours today.
Yep.
Like you got the shoe
I had to
game
bring him
going
out
on
for you,
today,
Tim,
man.
because you're always sharp dressed, man. I was actually gonna wear like a hoodie because it's cold, and it's not supposed to be cold in Florida. But I was like, okay, I'm meeting with Tim, so I
Yeah,
gotta
you're looking fresh, man.
appreciate that. Thank you. You as well. But yeah, so another thing you said was, do you think having like an athlete's mentality, as far as just staying persistent, having a work ethic. Being a former athlete, I know a lot of people who struggle finding out what they're passionate about. How can they leverage, whether you're an athlete or just something you're passionate
Mm,
about, like the arts, or, anything?
I love that.
What would
Yeah.
you say? Like, how can you transition your strengths into a career? Like,
Yeah.
how do you mold that?
Yeah. So, man, there is so much that has influenced me over my career that came from sports.
Hmm.
And I'll try to address your question specifically, but before I do, the one of the things about sports was teamwork,
Hmm.
man. It's, so many sports you're dependent on your teammates, and the team is not going to be successful unless every teammate is working together towards
Right.
that,
Yep.
greater good.
Yep.
The value of teamwork is so critical. leadership, coaches, great coaches.
Yes.
You probably, like me, had some really great coaches, and you had probably some coaches that weren't so great.
Right.
And I learned so much from both.
Yep.
I learned a
That's a
lot from
great
those
point.
bad coaches,
Mhm.
like, this is not what you do
Yep.
to get followers. And I learned a lot from a couple of really good coaches. And the best coach I ever had was the toughest coach I ever had. But you know what? Even when he was being the toughest on me, I knew it was because he cared. I knew it was because he loved me. And it's like that is one thing that I think as a leader, it's like if you demonstrate that you really care for the people that are working for you or with you, they are way more open to taking your corrective criticism or
Mhm.
whatever, if you've established that relationship.
Yes.
Other things that we gain from being an athlete and playing ball that I think are helpful in a career is, um, the putting in the time.
Mhm.
It's like, man, to hone your craft,
Yep.
you had to be
And
practicing
people don't
every
see you in
day,
the
right?
gym putting up 1,000 shots, or
Right,
in our case, reading books,
right.
listening to podcasts, studying our craft.
Yes. And it wasn't always shooting the ball either. It's
No.
like putting time in, in
Yep.
the other aspects of training,
Conditioning. Oh,
conditioning. Yeah.
oh,
So it's like
don't miss
that's
that.
so true in your career as well. You've got to put in that time even
Mhm.
when other people aren't watching,
Yep.
right? Um, and then the other thing is, like, I think this can work for you and it can work against you, and that is that competitive drive. So not all athletes have that same level of that, like competitive drive, but I think, we all wanted to win
Right.
and we all realized that you had to do certain things to win. For the athlete that had that competitive drive that just took them to another level, we've all seen those kind of players,
Mhm.
that weren't maybe the most gifted, but they had this thing.
Yep. The next level, next
Yeah,
gear.
and it took them to a different level, and we could point out athletes that have made it,
Mhm.
to the show that weren't the most talented, but I mean, look at Tom Brady for Pete's
Yeah,
sake, right?
absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So anyway, I guess the point in that is that, that competitive drive can take you to another level. However, how it can work against you is you've got to be patient.
Mhm.
So for that person who is just so competitive and is trying to get to that next level or that next thing, you can get really frustrated when it's not happening. And I think patience is absolutely critical. That you have to kind of look at it like, all right, I'm going to prepare for opportunity. I'm going to give 100%. I'm going to build relationships. I'm going to be the kind of performer that doesn't have to wait to be asked to do something, but I'm also going to be patient and wait for those right opportunities to come along.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. So what would you say, you know, what was one of your darkest moments, in the sense of, like, you were down? Like, have you ever been down on yourself during your journey? Like,
Oh, yeah, for
where
sure.
at what points during that, and how did you overcome that? Where did you kind of channel your energy? And 'cause I know as entrepreneurs, especially people that are starting out, that are listening, there's points that you have high success, there's valleys of, you don't know what you're doing, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
Um, you know, what what sort of experiences did you encounter along your way?
Yeah. I think the one that comes to mind is, there were times, there was a period in my career where maybe, and I won't use any names, but, maybe I had leaders that I was reporting to or bosses. By the way, leaders,
Mhm.
kind of a little side note here. Leaders have followers. If you don't have followers, you're not a leader.
Mhm.
You might just have a manager title,
Mhm.
right? But leaders have followers.
Yes.
And you don't even have to be a manager to be a leader. You can have followers without having the title. So
Love
there were
that.
times in my career where I had managers um, that I wasn't necessarily growing very well underneath, and I would get frustrated, and I really couldn't see. I didn't have the same perspective that I have now. This talk that I'm saying, like, oh, you got to be patient. Well, that's from perspective. That's
That's from gaining patience by
right.
being
That's from
impatient.
looking back and realizing the value of that. But in that moment, I wasn't being patient,
Hmm.
right? Getting really frustrated. And, I think really how I got through that, to be honest with you, is one, I didn't give up. So I was raised like just,
Figure it
good
out.
work ethic, like show up,
Hmm.
be to work on time, do your job, give 100%, and things will work out. So I had that work ethic. So I never really gave up. Nonetheless, still frustrated, still impatient. The most beneficial thing was having people that I could talk to that had been through that kind of scenario before, people that would encourage me. So it was really, I'd say, a couple of really close friendships that kind of got me through those times,
Hmm.
and encouragement from my wife,
Hmm.
just to stick with it, and you know, an ear, I
Right.
guess, that
Having a
that I could talk
core a
to.
core group that you lean
Yeah,
into.
exactly.
Hmm. As far as like growing the department at Publix,
Mm-hmm.
there's so much perspective that you had to have, going into that role, fresh, into a new industry, a new company,
Right.
and then all of a sudden having to manage people and then
Mm-hmm.
hire people
Right.
and continuing to manage people.
Right.
Um, what sort of advice would you give people that are looking to scale companies,
Sure.
hiring, training? What did you learn through your experience, and what would you tell a business owner?
Yeah, that's pretty simple for me. Hire. I would hire character and potential every time over mm, a lot of experience and maybe a prima donna. So,
Skills,
I've made mistakes like that over the years. Get really enamored with somebody who had a really great book, a great portfolio.
nice resume.
Yeah. And it was like, oh, wow. Just I saw red flags, but it was like, we'll work that out.
Hmm.
We'll change them. They'll adapt. Um, and it didn't work out. So over time, we learned, our leadership team figured out that it's like, man, if we can find somebody that has great potential and they're coachable and they have great character, 100% that's going to work out better.
It's just a
Yeah.
matter of finding the right seat on the bus. If
Yes.
it's not the right seat, but if they're coachable and open minded, and that kind of points back to your experience with having teammates and
Yeah.
being on teams. It takes people that have different strengths. Like the point guard isn't going to do the same things as a power forward.
Right.
They're different, people with
Mm-hmm.
different objectives for the whole team to succeed. And it's the same thing with business. Different
Right.
marketing departments, sales, service, finance.
Exactly.
Um, yeah, no, that's amazing. So, um, Tim, if you were starting a business today, what would you do right now to grow your brand and to market it? Take yourself back and like if you're starting a
Yeah.
business, and what would that business be? I'm curious.
Probably something in the area of style,
Okay.
trying to
See,
help
that's why I dressed up,
trying
man.
to help guys
Which we need help.
trying to help guys brand themselves. And I say guys not because um not because I'm not interested in helping the ladies, but it's like I really wouldn't know how to tell a lady like how to go shop for her clothes or
Sure.
whatever, right? So, um, probably helping guys with their personal branding. That's probably what I would do. And I don't want to make it sound like it's all about the clothes because it's not.
No, you in our pre-conversation, you had a great point, and I want you to hit on this because I think you are.
I don't
But
remember what I said.
you're mentioning about everyone is a personal brand,
Yeah,
and that kind of ties into like your perception of what you wear is
yeah,
part of that, right?
yeah,
It's not all of it, of course, but
totally.
what our eyes see is the first thing of the first
Mm-hmm.
impression sometimes.
Right. Yeah. So, Catapult is a brand, Publix is a brand, Dippity's a brand,
Hmm.
you're a brand,
Hmm.
I'm a brand. That's kind of how I see the world.
Yep.
And it's like whether we are trying or not, we are expressing our brand. So it's like, hey, might as well do my best to make sure I'm expressing my brand consistent with what's in here,
Hmm.
right? So if this is my brand, my heart and soul is really my brand, then what I wear, how I talk, how I do my hair, all those things are brand expressions. They're
Hmm.
branding. So it's like, I think we ought to be intentional about all those things, make all of those things work for us versus things that we have to overcome,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So that's probably, if I was starting a business, it would be something in that area.
Awesome.
And how would I start it?
Yeah. Well,
Well,
what would you do to tap into the market?
I think the first thing that brands have to do that they don't always think about is you have to sort of clearly state your objective. Marketing speak, I know, but it's a positioning statement. So a positioning statement is really just an articulation of what your differentiated offer is. What is it that's going to make somebody want to buy from you, shop from with you, use your services versus the 200 other businesses that are
Right.
essentially offering
Similar.
appear to be
Yep.
offering the same thing, right? So what is that differentiated positioning that you have? And then that is what has to inform everything else. It informs your brand identity, your your marketing strategies, etc. So I guess I would start with the objective,
Hmm.
and then I would let everything else kind of flow from there.
Would you like dive into content creation to grow your brand? Would you invest in SEO? What are you seeing at a high level right now for success? Like what would you
Yeah.
how would you market?
So I would come and hire you to help me because you're way farther down the road with all that stuff than what I am. Remember how you said that I used
That's
to
awesome.
draw on paper and all
Yes,
that?
yeah.
Yeah, I'm still a little more old school. Obviously, things have, you know,
That's hilarious.
transitioned dramatically
Yeah.
in terms of, communication strategies and the influence of SEO and social media and personalization. I mean, personalization has changed marketing strategies
Hmm.
so much over the last 10, 15 years.
Yep.
We used to communicate in mass,
Yep.
just throw it out there and
Right. See what
hopefully
sticks.
some of it would stick
Yep.
with hope it hits some of your target customers. Now the strategies are so much more
Oh
targeted.
yeah, I
So,
mean, like yeah, like people yearn for a personalized experience
right,
digitally now. So
right,
like when you're targeting people with a video, if you run proper remarketing ads that target people that kind of take them down the pathway that you prefer them to go down,
right,
or just you're providing value, constant value based on people's engagement or
exactly.
attention. But people now, we are savvy consumers and shoppers. Like we can kind of see through what's
Yep,
throwing at scale, or if you actually saw that I was in your checkout or your
exactly.
shopping cart and you
Yep,
saw the products and now you're helping me purchase it. So
yeah.
yeah, and that's kind of I have a few more questions for you. So
Okay.
let's talk fast forward in the
All right.
future, right? So where do you see like what's your take on the metaverse and what's your take on the evolution of where we're going digitally? How do you see that shaping out?
I don't have a crystal ball, man. It's like there's a part of me that wants everything to go back to analog, you know? So
I don't blame
so
you.
obviously there is this big push, this big movement towards the metaverse and these worlds that sort of almost seem fake to me.
Hmm.
What I mean by that is there's this lack of, your comment about personalization,
Hmm.
how people are seeing through it.
Yeah.
It's like we've gone from like, oh wow, they actually use my name to like, "Pfft, they're doing that for
Yeah.
everybody. They don't really know me,
Right.
right?
Yep.
So it seems sort of disingenuous and versus, a more interactive kind of experience that's real, like you and I sitting here today
Hmm.
talking. Um, so I don't really know where it's going, but here's one thing that I think about often is like, are we going to get so deep into this metaverse where people are learning for more learning, where people are yearning for a more real and rich interaction and experience. So let's talk about music.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, we all have access to pretty much any music we want. We can get it digitally. It's so easy.
Mm-hmm.
But why is vinyl so popular?
Right.
It's like the tangible,
Mm-hmm.
the analog. Um, I just wonder if we're going to get so far down the road that somebody's going to like look back and go, man, like, look, I got a piece of paper with something printed on it,
Mm-hmm.
that I can touch.
Right.
I, I don't know.
Yeah.
I just wonder if things will ever kind of cycle back to something that's, I keep using the term analog,
Yeah.
just sort of,
Well, if you think about it, like with the abilities that 3D printing has,
yeah,
like if say 5-10 years, if things are purchased digitally, but then we have the ability to print them in the physical world,
right.
I can see like in real estate, like contracts, like smart contracts
Yeah.
being, in like the, blockchain or I see applications, but the biggest thing, like I think back, I don't personally like it either. I think it's like dark rabbit hole that we're going
Yeah.
down. But it's a rabbit hole nonetheless that we are going down, and we have to adapt. And like as a marketer, I'm seeing what's happening, and all these big companies investing billions of dollars into it and building their own virtual experiences. It's coming,
I
so it's
just
just
wonder if
still.
younger generations will push back.
Well, I think the younger generations are the ones like the gamers. That's kind of how this all really came about. I
Yeah.
think the Sims world, all the
Mm-hmm.
way to now, it's like Call of Duty and these other sort of games that, um, Roblox is a big one. I don't have kids yet, but I know that's super popular,
Yeah.
with kids. So like, you know, the more that's ingrained, like getting a cookie at Publix, it's just part of your being,
Yeah.
So.
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. It's
I'm going to
exciting.
keep using business cards and
Yeah, yeah. I just
paper.
I don't want robots.
Yeah.
Just no robots.
No robots.
Um, so Tim, talk a little bit about your role now with Catapult. So, what do you do day to day for the members here? Is it just for Catapult members, or can the community come gain some experience from you, or get a meeting with you? What's your role like today? What are you
Yeah.
doing today?
So first, I love what I'm doing here at Catapult. It's been an amazing transition sort of opportunity for me, coming out of, all those years at Publix and being connected to creatives and having, the responsibilities that I had. I think if I didn't have this opportunity here at Catapult, I'd have somewhat of a void.
Mm-hmm.
But, I typically am working. I say working, it doesn't even really feel like work, but I'm typically here 3 days a week. And I'm really here for the members. It's really easy for them to, get time with me. They just shoot me an email or they just, reach out to me and say they'd like to meet. And typically what I'm meeting with them about is their business and the branding or the marketing strategies for their business.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not really doing design for them. I'm not really solving their problems. I'm just helping to kind of coach them through, giving
Sure.
them feedback on, whatever materials and tools they currently have or what they need. And the other cool thing is that I've been able to kind of match up members in here. So
Mm-hmm.
we have somebody that, has a startup, they're working on their branding, they need branding help, and there's people in here that do branding.
Yep.
So I've been able to kind of connect those different members and kind of help from both sides of it, sort of
Yeah.
help from the designer side and help from the client side.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been fun.
So people that are listening that may not be in Lakeland,
Mm-hmm.
because we have listeners
Sure.
from the whole county. What is Catapult? Or
So
what exactly is it?
yeah, Catapult is really, most simply stated, it's an incubator for startup businesses. That's the primary function or objective of Catapult is to help launch businesses. So most of our members are entrepreneurs and they have a business idea or a business trying to launch, and we're here to help accelerate that and get them going.
Yep, love it. And I can attest. A deputy's been there for 2 years now, I think almost, and we've grown. Our team, and it's just
Yeah.
been a great hub for us to call home, and just to have a centralized location with all the resources we need.
Yeah.
Because we're a digital agency. All we need is Wi-Fi, pretty much.
Well, you guys are great members. That's one of the other great benefits of Catapult. Not only the support you get from the staff and the resources here, but the opportunity to connect and network with other
Yeah,
members.
that's invaluable.
And
for
you
sure.
guys are great. Like, everyone in here knows Dippity, and you guys just, have added a lot to our environment in here. So that's one of the other key benefits, is just being able to get to know other members and network and help each other out, and
Yes.
just make it a cool place to hang out,
Yeah, it is really cool. It's
Yeah.
my favorite building in the entire city. So, all right, two more questions for you,
Yes,
Tim.
sir.
Rapid fire. Where do you see yourself in 10 years? And what would you give your younger self, age 20, advice?
So in 10 years, I hope I'm still somehow connected to people like you, helping people
We'll
figure
make that
things
happen,
out,
no doubt.
just adding value where I can.
Mhm.
It's critical for me to have, lots of relationships in my life, and especially relationships where I feel like I'm kind of giving back or helping, people based on my experiences, just doing life. So wherever that is, I want to be doing that. And I think the advice that I would give my 20-year-old self is just, I wish I would have gotten started quicker at building those relationships, connecting with more people. It was later in my career that I really saw the value of that, and saw how that not only helped me, but, in like it in turn, it gave me the opportunity to help others. So
Mhm.
I would have started working harder at building those connections at an earlier age.
Mhm. Yep.
Yeah.
Connections open doors.
Mm-hmm.
But like you said earlier, it's about walking through that door and
Yeah.
maximizing
Right.
the opportunity.
Right.
So, that only goes so far, but it's all about the people and relationships. And
100%. All about the people.
yeah.
All those years of Publix, we did a lot of work as a team that we could be really proud of. But the thing I'm, most proud of, and the thing that I'm fondest of, is the people,
Mhm.
the team that we built, and the relationships that we, um, you know, started and continued to develop. Those are the things that stick with you, man.
Yep.
It's
Absolutely.
all about the people.
Well, thank you so much, Tim. It's been
Yes,
a
sir.
pleasure sitting down with you. I hope to do this again real soon.
Yeah, man.
And yeah, you guys have a great day. Thank you for listening.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.